Good afternoon on Saturday, December 6th. I've continued stripping the 1957 Captivator by Penn. When we started the topsides, I began with paint remover, but I encountered an intriguing problem that I would love to have the community react to. When I laid on the paint remover, it bubbled up the varnish just like you would normally expect it to. But the intriguing thing is that the stain in the varnish, because it appears to be some kind of very, very dark stain varnish, unlike the top where the planks had been stained and then varnished with something clear. This stuff well, I'm not sure you can see in the detail of this little video, but much of the color is actually trapped within the varnish, and that's why it is so uniform as we look at it. So when I applied the Circa 1850 heavy-bodied paint and varnish remover to it, the varnish came off in great big puddles, made a huge mess on the floor, as we've all experienced. But the stain bled into the surface of the wood. So I decided to go old school and fire up our Walt hot air gun and a scraper, and I started out with the 2-inch scraper we normally use, but the problem here is that the planks are just about an inch, maybe 7/8 of an inch wide, and as you remember, we have this issue of the cupping of the planks. So what was happening is that when I scraped across with my 2-inch scraper, I got the two edges just beautifully, but the valley between remained untouched. So I'm reduced to 3/4 inch, maybe 5/8 inch scraper. And while many people advised just buy a scraper, go down to your local hardware store, get a house scraper. Well, all house scrapers are not born equal, and we have now standardized on what are really pretty expensive, but in the long run, very inexpensive scrapers. The handles and the blades. The blades are cemented carbide. They stay sharp for a long, long time. And this blade on the detail scraper is actually a triangle, which affords you 3 scraping sides. As one wears out, you can flip to the next one. They are, if you want to search for them, search for BAHCO scrapers, and that should get you there, both the blades and the handles. So I'm reduced to firing up the DeWalt. I'm setting it at 1,000 degrees and waiting for it to come up to temperature. And the nice thing now is that I can scrape the varnish and the encapsulated stain off without it bleeding without it bleeding very much into the wood beneath. But even here, there are some constraints. This is strip-type construction. There is a layer between the outer planking and the inner planking that is some kind of plasticized material. So I have to be very careful with the hot air gun I can set it at 1100 degrees, that's the max, or I can back it off to what I'm actually using, which is about 900 degrees, and try to be gentle with it. What I have tried with some success is to follow this pulling off the surface varnish with coming back with the Circa 1850 paint remover, and this paint remover has been on the side for some time now. It may be pretty dry. No, in fact, it has given me the result that I want. Now you see that even here, while I'm able to scrape off much of the stain and pull it right out of the wood, you can really see how the cupping leaves me with a valley to deal with, and in fact I'm hoping that the video is able to show this to you, but you should be able to be seeing some very faint, maybe 32nd inch wide sort of zebra stripes. These are the edges of each plank, and as I scrape with my super sharp carbide blade, what I'm doing is actually beginning the process of smoothing this surface, so that in fact when we decide to finally begin the fairing process with our longboard pneumatic sanders, we will have less to work with. But we'll keep stripping, and I thought maybe the next step would be a little walk around so that I can share with you some of the other issues we've discovered. In the process, we've discovered some interesting issues. If you'll watch, this section of the deck is pretty much floating in space. There is a cross frame member here, and the fasteners seem to be tight, but the fasteners all along the forward ends of these planks have pretty much failed. Here you can see it's just really bouncing up and down. And that is contributed to splits forming in the Sikaflex, or whatever the material that was used by whoever put this black stuff in the seams, to fail. So if you put any water on any of the foredeck, you're going to have a lot of water in the area of the bilge beneath it. Another issue we've encountered as we were scraping and staining, or as I was scraping and unstaining, my scraper seemed to be deflecting the joint. This is the aft cockpit, starboard side, aft corner, and as you'll see, it is completely floating freely. It's not attached. It is no longer attached, at least to this point. And the intriguing thing is, the way this boat is designed, there's a frame member that these fasteners beneath these bungs go into, but that frame member is not attached to the framing for the gunwale. So the gunwale is essentially separate from the framing of the aft deck, and the only thing that kept it sound was this joint right here. Well, as you can see, this joint is no longer sound. We've also released the port side rub rails. after looking at the spray rails, I half expected to find oak, because the spray rails are clearly white oak, but the rub rails are not. Rub rails are mahogany. And we have an issue with a section of the port rub rail that right where the scarf joint is from the factory, there was some kind of very significant encounter with an immovable object, and the boat took the brunt of it. You can see how scarred up these last two planks are, and the outer edge of the gunwale. So we will be replacing, scarfing in a section of rub rail, because the rub rail in this area was just completely destroyed. And we were planning to do it in white oak, but we will do so in mahogany just like the rest of the boat. As you can see, since the last video, we have removed everything from inside the hull at this point. That dashboard needs to be completely stripped, but we need to do it without dripping paint remover into the bilge, because our goal at this point is to sand and repaint the interior of the bilge in a color similar to this, but it may move towards a light green so that it mirrors the bottom paint we will eventually put on the boat. So that's where we are as of Saturday, December 6th. Wet snow falling outside the shop in Weybridge, Vermont. We'll be back to you with the next step in the restoration and preservation of this 1957 Penn Captivator. Thank you so much. Goodbye for now.